It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.
Best of stocking.
And we're back again in this wonderful holiday season. Chad is decorated. We have not. Welcome, everybody. We got Peter Lawrence with us today and Chad Juttner and call sign Viper. Brian Ganas is here.
Hi. It's nice to hear it for the first time out loud.
Okay, so we're going to talk about this time of the year, and it's project overload. It's deadline, hard dates, and everything's important. Everything's got to get done by the end of the year. Why is this time of the year so crazy? And what's the answer? Last year was a nightmare of scheduling. You know, I had to work with everybody's computer on our team, and that was a challenge. This year, I've got another deadline I got to meet by the end of the year. Well, a few of them. And holidays are stressful enough. Why does this keep happening, Peter?
Well, the problem is they put Christmas at the end of the year, really is the whole problem. If it wasn't at the end of the year, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Honestly, I like for me, it's the time of year that I take off, right? I don't take as much PTO as I should during the rest of the year. I try to balance it out with all the kids are home from school, everybody's together. I will be here too and participate. And so work, I will not be there participating. So I'm sure Brian loves this time of year where it's so easy to throw together a meeting. You, Kyle, were describing, you've got work to do with everybody's computer. It's easy to get everybody just come on into the office on the day before Christmas. Brian, what do you think?
It's the bland or the complete neutral zone of everything happening between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like there's so many people taking time off. There's so many vacations, and trying to get anything done during that time is immensely difficult. I mean, you're always going to run into that key person, especially, you know, some of the people higher up in the chain, because they feel the same way. They've got families. They want to be home with their kids and their spouse, and we can't get anything done. So I warn people constantly that trying to schedule anything for the month of December is just not a good idea. Trying to do a major release December, never going to happen. Wait until mid-January at the earliest for the most part. But yeah, it becomes incredibly difficult. And you run into the financial ramifications. A lot of companies still operate off of a fiscal year that aligns with the calendar year. And so with my current client, for instance, we have consultants and contractors who are going to be rolling off at the end of the month, purely because that's what the budget was allocated for to the end of 2024. And we logically just cannot hold them into 2025. That doesn't stop the projects. They're still going to go. So yeah, we run into this all the time. And yeah, it becomes a nightmare.
Chad, when does the end of the year code freeze happen? For, you don't want to touch anything. You don't want to do anything that's going to force your team back into the office to fix a bunch of stuff. Do you guys have that on your projects?
No, I mean, I worked IT organizations for very, very large retailers. We're in the Minneapolis market, so we can kind of guess some of the large retailers. And one of the most delightful experiences that I've had in my IT career was code freeze for some of these folks happens in September, right? Because they don't want a single change going in over the holiday. And if you did need a change, you needed to represent your change literally in front of the CIO, like of a Fortune 500 company. You have to go to the CIO and say, "Can I do this, please, sir?" And so what ended up happening for retailers was this was the best time of year because nothing happened. It was so nice. I'm in a different industry now, and that's not really a thing. We don't do code freezes. But for me personally, is in quite a few meetings, this is the most exquisite time still, because as other people take time off, it allows me to breathe a little bit. Like, I'm not going to take time off right now because now I can actually do work, like especially these last 2 weeks of December, right. I can actually like catch my breath and do things and, make progress on a lot of stuff that you kind of just punt because you're in meetings all day. So I love this. I mean, this is a really, I understand the folks that do take the time off, like you, Peter, like your family's home and they're around, so you might as well. And if you don't use it earlier in the year. But for me, my goodness, this is the last time of year that I want to be taking time off because I can actually work without interruptions, without distractions, and more happens for me. I accomplish more this month than I do almost any other month of the year.
I will say I have had Christmas spirit of development at the end of the year when nobody's around. In the past, I've had a few times of that, and you're right. It is a gift to yourself to be able to do that.
Say that those two words again.
I'm not even sure which one.
I believe it was "you're right."
There you go.
Sorry.
That feels good. Oh, just touches my soul.
I go through a little microcosm of this every year with Black Friday specifically. That is one of the best days to actually log in and get some work done because nothing is happening. But a lot of companies are still operating. Actually, again, my current client, we don't have any official holidays. They are technically every day. And, the employees are granted floating holidays that most people utilize on Thanksgiving and Black Friday. But there are still people who can be in and get a lot done. And every year I go through this little debate of, do I really want to take the day off? Because I can get so caught up and get so much done without having to go to 7 straight hours of meetings. It's wonderful.
Yeah. And I think it's also, for me, as a billable resource, I also just like the extra, having these hours that are, if you're already at a certain point in the year, why let up, right? Just all gas, no brakes to January. And and then you're in January and you're like, well, crap, it's cold out. We're in Minnesota, right? It's cold out. Why would I take a day off when it looks like this outside? So you keep going.
When do you take your break then?
Fun fact about your buddy is the last PTO day that I've actually taken was May of 2022. So I think at that pace, I will take another day of PTO in 2027. Sounds like my year, man.
Wow. Nice. Something to look forward to.
So I know I'm actually
it helps to be a freak of nature and some kind of a machine terminator that just never stops, relentless.
I'm assuming we'll enter some sort of disclaimer right now into the recording about how we do not endorse such behavior, right?
No. We promote a work-life balance. We absolutely do.
So I've got a question for you, Chad. You talked about the retail end of year being in September and then having this. I don't like. Do you just develop code, tons and tons of code, put it into dev, and then in January on the 15th, this 4,000 changes roll into production?
Yeah, when you were in that, when that was the scenario, you don't stop writing code, but you don't have, it really was as nice as it sounds. Like, it was genuinely like, hey, here's, code freeze happened. We're not getting anything into production. Let's start planning for the next year. Let's work through our tech debt. Let's work through our backlog a little bit. And there's no pressure of deadlines, really. It was kind of a magical time for that at that particular retailer at that particular time. The way they handled it was honestly really nice. And I think everybody appreciated that because you do kind of like you go a little nuts through summer, right? That's kind of the opposite problem, right? Like your actual hard time is, the really gorgeous nights.
The warm months of August and September, huh?
Yeah. So, but yeah, I remember it. I remember it fondly. It was a great, like, stress-free, and honestly, obviously production issues happen if that was a thing, and if it happens during a certain period of time, boy, that's an even bigger thing, but it was nice. I liked it.
The fourth Friday in November is not a great time to have any sort of website problems.
The degree to which we tested and load tested and did everything else made that day a non-event. It was, and the benefit of that too, we learned so much, right? Those days are mostly like forensics gathering days for us. Like, hey, let's get as much evidence so that we can prep for next year. Let's analyze this Black Friday compared to last Black Friday. Like, we have, there was tool sets built just around that. It's really nice. Yeah.
That's interesting. Nice. Brian, you sort of run on the BA project delivery end of things. And like you said, you like it when everybody's gone because you get to do some work then and not just attend meetings. How do you get more work? Like, how do you figure out who to talk to and how to talk to them when everybody's gone?
That's ultimately the struggle. Is there is a certain amount of things I can't get done because I do need some expertise from the people who are out. But typically, a lot of the job is in service of, planning and facilitating meetings and just getting people together. And then all the things that I'm able to do individually just kind of falls way to the back burner. And this is where I'm able to pick that back up. So yes, there are certain things that I'm not able to do because most of those, a lot of people are gone. But for the most part, I still end up with a huge personal backlog of things that I can get accomplished. And some of it is literally just organizing things. I mean, just taking the time to literally organize a backlog for the team and remove, some of the fat that's accumulated in there when, just because they get out of hand. And unless someone truly is allowed to be dedicated to a task like that for their 40 hours a week, things are going to get missed. And this is an opportunity to come in and, mess around with that kind of stuff, clean things up without everybody wondering why all the priorities changed and the list whole, everything changed. I get to wait until everybody's come back now and then present everything that I got done while people were out and kind of summarize it and whatnot. So yes, definitely difficulties with it in general, but there's enough work that keeps me busy, fortunately.
So would you say that you're cleaning up the tech debt of Jira or whatever tools you're using at that point?
Yes. Which I would love to blame on other people, but I know it's entirely my fault. And so, yeah, it's an opportunity for me to clean up the mess that I made and make it look like I'm the hero for doing all the really hard work for, all my engineers. Like, oh, look at what I've done for you and how much a martyr that I am for working on Black Friday to clean this for you, when really I should have just been doing it the entire year. But yeah, I try not to lay that on too.
I don't. Nice. I do not. I lay it on even thicker than that.
Yeah. I find that unsurprising.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's like we've been saying, like day to day throughout the year, regular cadence. I mean, like in Brian's case, that backlog, I mean, my project is not much different, right? Like our backlog just gets clogged with like nonsense, and you don't really, it's never a priority to go in there and
don't count. I mean,
yeah.
And honestly, like you put things in the backlog thinking, oh, when we have time, we'll do this. And then you realize that, it's coincident with Chad's PTO in 2027 when you even have an opportunity. And that might even
I was going to get to that.
and that might even be gone by then.
When he takes that afternoon off.
The half day.
One of the things that I've often run into in trying to work with my various teams a lot is I feel like there's a part of me that starts to feel like a little bit the boy who cried wolf, because while I talk about how the period between Black Friday, really even the week of Thanksgiving up to a week after New Year's, honestly, right. It's all just kind of a loss to a degree, but it almost feels like there's always some sort of excuse too, like because in the summer, well, people take time off during the summer too. So releases and huge projects in July and August, that's a terrible idea. Kids are going back to school. Kids are coming out of school. Spring break, winter break. Like there's always something. And I start to feel like I'm just making noise. But it is something that I think teams need to be aware of, is that there are these periods where vacation times spike. We need to be aware of them. But there's also so many of them. And you've got people, Chad doesn't take time off during the Christmas holidays, but he might take maybe Chad's not a great example in this case, but there might be other people who take their time off during the summers instead. And so we're just losing access to them during a different time of the year. And so it gets hard, and you almost have to kind of just pick these ones of, summer's going to be easier than Christmas, so let's go with that. But
you got Christmas, the holidays, then you got spring break. You got to take that midwinter vacation because you just can't stand the dark and the cold anymore. Yep. And then you've got summer in Minnesota. We got to enjoy this because it's not going to last that long.
Yep.
And then back to school, and then so you're right. I mean, you could point a finger at this any time of the year.
Yeah.
And this is why.
A conversation that I had this week about team velocity, it was, how can you really ever measure this? Because show me one sprint we've had where our full team was here working every day. and we actually get to demonstrate what our true capacity is. It's not realistic. There's always someone who's got a day off or they had to call in sick. Like I know ultimately the answer is that is of course all factored into the velocity, blah, blah. But it's still just this idea of like, you can't plan around this stuff. It's a part of the fabric of everything we're doing. It's just the way it is.
Kyle, you'd mentioned sort of a few things finishing before the end of the year. Do you feel like, did you save them up for now specifically? Did they just land now? Or
Is it my own damn fault?
You could put it that way, yeah.
No, it was one thing was someone else that was had a lot of other stuff going on and now is going strong.
Now they've got the free time because everybody's gone.
And then and then going into production with it, like, it's going to be all day on the 23rd. So
Nice.
it's like, but I kind of saw this coming. I did have some hints earlier, but then I didn't get the kickoff. Like, here's the stuff, here's what we want, that kind of stuff happens after October. And then, I guess the way my schedule works, the way my weeks happen, I'm not really in control of problems that are going to spring up.
Well, and deadlines too, right? You've had some deadlines that were given to you rather than you were able to calculate based on how much work you could get done. And
Right.
that happens to everybody, right? I mean, Brian,
Yeah.
Chad, you guys are all familiar with this is the deadline and we need to get this done by this particular time.
Mm-hmm.
Make it happen.
Do you take those deadlines like super seriously, or do you just know that that's a really desirable deadline, but if this didn't happen for 2 weeks after that, how bad would that be? And then
Depends
kinda
on who gives me the deadline.
slide your procrastination out. I try to take them as seriously as possible.
Yeah.
It's
I use
it's
history
contextual,
as my guide.
Yeah, it's contextual. Artificial deadlines given to me by, not going to pick on a specific role.
The awesome marketing department.
Yeah, if it comes from the business, if it comes from, depending on which leadership group it came from, like, I'm grown up enough now to realize which ones are real deadlines and which ones are somebody trying to push us a little bit, because obviously adults need pushes still. And so, the one thing I'm grateful for in my role on teams now is that I can kind of take that, like I get those, and I can take that and actually relay it to the team and say, like, this one actually matters, and this one is just this guy trying to be important, right? Like, the more context, I think what Kyle's getting at is with deadlines, the more context that we have as project teams around what went into a deadline really helps project leadership. It really helps me echo back to the team, like, this one matters, right? Like, this one, if we don't get this done, then it has this, here's all the downstream impacts, right? Like, here's the
we may
dollar.
pull up stakes and
Yeah.
Yeah, if you get a wishy-washy deadline where someone's like, yeah, we'd really like to get this done by this date.
Or
that
even
would
the
be really
opposite, where
great.
somebody's like, I promised this to this guy by this date, and it's something stupid. I'm like, you're not going to get it. And because here's the other priorities we have. Like, we are, to anything, I'm good enough now where I can actually recognize important deadlines and realize when somebody's just like manifesting something they're pulling a date out of their butt and saying, like, yeah, we're going to promise this there. And everybody but the team is going to look great if we promise it or miss it, whatever. It doesn't matter.
I think that butt date is more likely to be the end of the year. Like, that just is a natural breaking point. Budgets, strategic goals, all those things come into play. And it's like, yeah, we're going to get this done by the end of the year. That's a 2024 initiative. We got 2025 stuff coming up. And it's like, well, now we've got 12 things that are, looming over our heads because of that. So do you think companies have changed their fiscal calendar just because of that phenomenon that happens? That you were talking about a reset every year, Brian, because it's New Year's and all of that stuff.
I doubt it. I think they only change it for the tax accountants. I truly believe that's the only reason they ever adjust the fiscal year. Otherwise, everyone is pretty happy just saying, well, we need it by the end of the year regardless, so get it done.
I don't
I'm okay with that.
I don't think IT people are important enough to adjust.
Yeah,
companies
you're
fiscal.
right. Yes.
I'm
Right,
okay
like,
with that because
I'd like to think that I'm.
accounting is really important. There's like legal stuff, legal trouble. Yeah.
If IT was as impacted by the IRS as the accountants were, we might have a bigger chair at that table. But typically, I just don't think we warrant that kind of power.
Yeah.
Not yet, at least.
I had a long time ago, back in the old days when I was a consultant, hard date, fixed bid that ended at the end of the year, and 12 weeks of hours in a 10-week period to get it done.
Yeah.
And I worked on Christmas. I worked on Thanksgiving. I worked, it's just the rest of the team was in Amsterdam. And so I had a half a day of heads down work time.
Yeah.
Because they were all like having supper, watching Dallas or whatever's on over there.
I really want to know where you pulled Dallas from for that.
Amsterdam needs more going on, apparently.
I don't know how this works.
Watching Dallas.
But it's like and that last week, no one was around, and I was able to just bust it out and finish it. And another year, though, we delivered it at the end of the year, not knowing that five people doing something is going to be much less of a load than 120, and then having issues with things loading and stuff like that. And
it's a fun January.
Yeah. And that was a tough week getting that figured out and fixed. And because you think you're done, you're so happy and proud and it's all working great. And then surprise. But I'm kind of proud of those projects that I got them done despite the holidays, scheduling issues, things like that. Maybe every quarter should be like that.
That would be nice. Because you get the positives and the negatives. I mean, you get those nice days where there is some kind of chill and quiet time and you can really get stuff done. But in the back of your head that come January 2, 3, whatever it is, that's when it all comes back, and it comes back fast and furious, and all that work that everybody was putting off because nothing gets done during December, now they're all mad and fired up about it, and they come to you and they've got a whole list of things, and you get 2 weeks. We need this done now. We waited through all of December. We need this done now. And yeah, I just try to cling to the good vibes because the scary times are coming shortly after.
As Brian, as an agile aficionado, how do you do December sprints, right? Like December and January. Like I've got a deadline of January 15th. And I've been telling folks, I'm like, hey, that's great. We'll be fine. But just keep in mind, like, there's going to be 2 full weeks in December and January that are kind of like these limbo weeks where, like, yeah, there's a day off, built-in day off on each one of them for people that do that. It's those 2 weeks. I mean, yeah, you can reach out to folks and say, hey, put your vacation on the calendar and we'll plan our velocity around that. Do you do anything more than that, though? Just recognizing that those are just dumb weeks?
I don't even bother checking PTO calendars because I don't trust them. I basically assume if your velocity, it doesn't matter what the number is, I would cut the velocity that I would expect to accomplish during those sprints to a quarter. And if we get more done, fantastic. But if you are truly planning out sprint commitments, I would move it down to 25 to 30% of what our typical capacity is actually able to accommodate. And just things come up, and I'm not going to change the sprint cadence. I'm not going to change the dates and whatnot. I'm just going to assume that we are just not getting as much done during those periods of time. And so projects have to accommodate that. And you can keep saying, well, we're supposed to get this much done. PTO calendar shows most of us are going to be here, but things come up. It's just the way it is. I mean, people go on road trips to go see family. Cars break down. You get stuck in snow. Like, these things just happen. And so, yeah, I proactively just way take down the amount of commitment that
when the key stakeholder takes a 2-week vacation off the grid at the end of the year, is pushing for this deadline to happen and needs to be involved, is that when you like tamper with their vehicle, get them on a no-fly list?
I'm not allowed to admit to any of that, but it's a strategy for sure.
Cars break down, just happens.
I mean, there's the optics of all of that, right? Like when key stakeholders are taking time off and pushing other people to do the opposite, right? That's not a great look. I think to double down on what Brian's saying, like the motivation sometimes for folks just isn't there too, right? Like even if a whole team is online and you don't have all this pressure, like you do kind of like let up on the gas, right? Like we don't have to double the speed limit now. We can actually go the speed limit and be a lot more deliberate about what we're doing without all of the everything that happens throughout the day. And I almost wish like we would take a closer look at that when it's not the holiday season and observe like delivery during this month, during like starting now through like 6 weeks from now, right? Observe delivery now compared to other intense parts of the week and say like, hey, what was different? Well, most of the people were gone for 2. A lot of folks were out of pocket for a couple of weeks. The folks that were here actually did good work. How do we replicate that when we're not, when it's not Christmas? How do we do that in February? How do we do that in March? Yeah. Is it just that we're all just drinking way too much eggnog for 6 weeks and that's motivating us to, or is every pressure point that we apply to projects outside of this actually doing the opposite of what we think it is? That'd be a fun little science project.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's probably a freaking blog post about it somewhere, but
is there such a thing as too much eggnog? Yeah. One of my favorite jokes is eggnog. I want a drink, but I also want pancakes. I think it was John Mulaney.
It was the Southern Comfort eggnog, the non-alcoholic Southern Comfort eggnog that you can get at Cub Foods and Target. Oh my God, just exquisite. Especially the vanilla flavor one. I guarantee you it's pure sugar, right? Like somehow they've liquefied some sugar and I'm injecting that right into my bloodstream. But I don't know, mid-November to 2 weeks into January, I am probably like, you can talk about BAC, but there should be like an EAC or BEC, plug eggnog content, because it's high for me.
Hot or cold?
Yeah.
I've got a half gallon sitting in my fridge, that's for sure.
Can you imagine the smell that a body would produce if they actually had that content of eggnog within them?
If eggnog was a measurable blood test, I would blow 0.08 all the damn time.
And then it's gone. And then the holidays end, and so does the eggnog. It's like, why can't we have eggnog all year long?
There used to be a Halloween drink. This was when Red Owls were a store that you could go to.
Was it Red Owl Wise Buy?
It was Witch's Brew. And it was like some sort of red, like blood red fruit punch. And it was the same thing. It was only available from like September through the end of October. And as a kid, I was just stoked on Witch's Brew for 6 full weeks. And then I would switch to eggnog. And
celebrate your year with a festival of drinks that are limited time only.
I think I'm going to start naming my team's sprints based on holiday beverages that are only available seasonally.
Yeah,
we're on Eggnog 1 right now. We'll carry that into Eggnog 2 for a little bit.
And then Shamrock Shakes become a thing.
Yes.
Just like right there, baby. Give it to me.
So the procrastination thing is definitely a factor, I think. And I wish last minute, like, I wish I felt the same way, like the second to the last, third to the last minute as I do when something's last minute. Because that's when I get all my energy. It's like the plane's leaving in the morning. It's 8:00 at night. I better pack. I better do laundry. And you become this machine. At least I do. If I have too much lead time, it just doesn't seem to really kick in. I've never been able to be on that even keel or plan that far ahead. Like the marshmallow test, before they even finish the sentence, I've eaten that one marshmallow instead of waiting for 2.
I find that I've gotten better as time goes on. That running around with my hair on fire for 1 minute at the end of every sprint or every month or, whatever deadline, it catches up with.
After Shamrock Shake season, what is the May beverage? I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on
I know.
Seasonal beverage.
Fair. We can talk about that. Is there an Easter beverage that folks, it sounds like that should be eggnog too, but apparently
there's
not.
Graduation party fruit punch.
Yep.
That's
high fruit content.
It used to, like, there was a time when every graduation had a big bowl of Sprite with a big lump of lime sherbet floating in it, and that was the punch of choice. or it's something red with orange slices.
Not going in order of the calendar, but we definitely enter apple cider season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cider season's huge.
Apple cider
Yeah.
goes into pumpkin spice, goes into
Yep.
eggnog, right?
Oh,
Yep.
your Sprints
You
cider.
get into in the summer months, you got your lawn mowing beers, right?
Yeah.
Which for me are the same as other beers, but after you've mowed your lawn,
They
imagine
taste
for a
different.
second that I'm a
They
guy that
taste
mows his
different.
lawn. Yeah. I mean, watching people mow your lawn, that makes you thirsty, and you want to have a tasty
It's
beverage.
hard work
best-
watching that and monitoring.
The best beer I ever had was a Pfeiffer's after I rototilled a friend's grandmother's garden.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
And then you
And
got the
Pfeiffer.
milkshake season. Milkshakes, Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that's a thing, right? When Dairy Queens, remember when Dairy Queens used to close in the winter?
Yeah.
Yeah, some
And then
still
like
do.
they would open.
Yeah, we still have some of those kind of more outdoor friendly ones.
Yeah. The first my first Mr. Misty of the season used to be just magical.
Yep.
Bring back grape.
Yeah.
I support this.
Hey, what were we supposed to be talking about again?
Oh, we're talking about
The
end of
holidays.
year scheduling and
End
some
of the year
some
scramble.
of the
There-
chaos that goes along with it.
There was a piece we had kind of touched on that got me thinking too about, the motivation levels that people have. And I think, yes, it's in general, it can be a little hard to motivate yourselves during the season. But I think the other thing to remember is people also have a lot on their minds during this time of the year.
Yeah.
There is a lot of pressure on the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays to all the food that comes with Thanksgiving, and that's nothing compared to Christmas, and all the shopping that has to get done for all the presents and all the decorations and elf on a shelf, all these kinds of things that we apply all of this artificial pressure to, but it's there. And it's stuff we have to, I mean, in the back of my head at all times during the month of December, I am thinking about how I need to plan out all these gifts I need to buy for other people. I need to get lists to people in my life on the things that my family wants, that my kid wants, etc. There's a lot going on. And I just, at a certain point, it starts taking over. And the professional things, the work-related things I have to get done, take a back seat whether I want them to or not. And that can happen in the middle of the workday.
I solved that Christmas gift problem when I turned Christmas into regiftmas, and then I just shop in my own home.
Nice.
It's I think Brian, you might get a little of this about how you, because you've got little ones, right? You've got
We have one 6-year-old. Yep.
a 6-year-old. So in about 12 years, man, I'm just giving you hope. In 12 years, so once all of mine have gotten to be a certain age, her and I, we will do this thing called Christmas shop, right? And what Christmas shopping means is we go to a dive bar, we pull out our phones, we grab a couple of Amazon gift cards, or if the bar has clothes, guess what you're getting? And honestly, like I'm wearing one right now. These are gorgeous hoodies. I'm gonna pull up a picture here. This is gonna be a visual for folks that watch this on the YouTube. But surprise, you're getting hoodies and baseball hats from the bar, right? Like
Nice.
I love it.
we combine the stress of part of that, like getting great gifts and everything else, with an activity that we enjoy, which is visiting dive bars. And I don't know if you guys realize this, but especially in Minneapolis, dive bars at Christmas time are like these magical places, right? Because they're all decked out. And they've got all the, like the especially if you're nostalgic, they've got all the nostalgic like decorations up, stuff you haven't seen in a while, and it becomes pretty special. So
You can never have too many hats or hoodies.
exactly.
Blankets.
Well, yeah. So 12 years, Brian, you and the missus, or even, I think we started this when our youngest got to be like 4, whenever they're at home by themselves, safe. We kind of started this tradition. So we've been doing it for years now. But I think like the key there is, you're right. Like the stress of all of that, you're 9 to 5 or you're 6 to 6 or whatever hours you happen to be working. I've tried very, very hard, sometimes successfully, sometimes not, to include some sort of squeeze some sort of joy, every negative aspect to that, right? Like, yeah, we got to do shopping. All right, let's go to the bar. We'll pull up Amazon. Sorry, big box retailers. This is way more fun than fighting your crowds and your lines and your whatever, right? And then even with the day to day, like right now, we're Christmas shopping tonight. I'm actually going to go Christmas shopping with my Aunt Mary. And I am genuinely, it just makes getting through this day that much more enjoyable. Have this thing to look forward to.
That's
You know,
excellent, and that's a great thing that I should extract from it as well. I despise shopping, whether it be virtual or actually in a brick and mortar store. I can't stand it, and this is a rough time of year for me.
Yeah.
I have been combating it not by coming up with cool traditions like yours, but just being incredibly ungrateful with my family to the point where hopefully I don't have to buy them gifts or them me anymore, and I just cut this whole stress ball out of my life. It's going relatively well so far. I'll report back next year.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Everybody
You get the
do-
gift anyway, though. You make a deal like we're not gonna exchange gifts this year, and then someone, well, I just had to get you something, and then it's like, oh,
Which also happens in the professional world. We're not going to plan a release for the week before Christmas. We know. Well, except there is that one thing we need to get out. So if you wouldn't mind, just the one thing. It's just the one thing. Don't worry.
Not a whole release, just this one thing.
Yeah. Well, and as long as you're doing that one thing, if you could also squeeze this one in, Christmas is on a Wednesday this year, so we've got that Monday. Let's see what we can do. I don't know if Christmas is actually on a Wednesday this year. I think I might have made that up. I can't remember.
I think you're right.
it is.
I like
yeah.
I like the creativity involved in gift giving these days. Like for me, that's part of it. I just had this idea yesterday because I on our internal Slack, I posted this fun little message asking for the worst things that you can get kids, because I don't have to deal with this anymore.
That was an
glitter and
awesome
slime
post.
are the top two. Glitter
was probably. I thought I had some good answers, but when I saw glitter, I was like, nope. There's no need for me to add anything.
Yep. And so I'm doing glitter, slime. I got these little gift boxes, but the other part of it too is I'm buying squirt guns, and I'm going to fill them with Red Bull, and I give them to kids because I'm not hosting Christmas this year, right? So here's your squirt gun. It's filled with Red Bull. Get it in your sister's mouth, and then there's just so many aspects to this that I love. And so I
December
really
6th, 2024 was the day we learned Chad is pure evil.
Oh gosh, yeah. And honestly, so one of the purposes of this podcast is not only to get through some issues and talk about our professionalism and sometimes our lack of, and how great SDG is, but also as a recruiting tool. So the folks that don't know is SDG has this big event, right, on every holiday called the SDG Santa Brunch. We're going to have this big thing. Santa's coming to the office and you get your picture taken. And this year there's pancakes
Tomorrow.
and all sorts of fun things. And I'm actually volunteering to flip pancakes. But for everybody that gave me a bad idea, when I see them bring their kids in, I've got a little thing of glitter for them. And I am so excited. I've got glitter. I've got candy cigarettes. I have got like 5 things that I have on hand to hand out to little kids. I have this. This is a gummy PS5 controller. It's just a big gummy thing, right?
Oh.
Some lucky kid is getting diabetes for Christmas. I can't wait.
Come work at
Deactivate your
SDG.
key card. Yeah.
It's funny that since I've been working remote for the last 4 years, I was thinking back to some of the other things that we've done. And, there used to be the holiday potluck, right? It's where everybody brings in, like all the clients I've been to, all the jobs that I've worked before, they've had a holiday potluck. And I do kind of miss the meatballs and the little weenies. But other than that, it was a fun time and a lot of people relaxing.
Have any of you ever been at a company where the potluck led to food poisoning?
I've not.
Oh my
I was not there for the year it happened. I joined shortly after, but yeah, they were no longer permitted to do potlucks because it was bad, apparently. 30, 40 people all got it, and it was rough. There were no permanent ramifications or anything like that, but it was a nasty time. And so yeah, potlucks were officially banned at that point.
That is an interesting thing because if 30 to 40 people got it, whatever caused the food poisoning must have been delicious, right?
Yes, yeah.
This is a fun little detective game now.
I think they all had their theories as to what it was that caused it.
Bacon wrapped wings, wasn't it?
Most likely, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Was there anyone
one year
I
was at a project for a customer and was invited to they had a big turkey Thanksgiving thing they did every year. And I'm like, well, no, I'm good. I don't want to, take the time, spend billable time this afternoon because it was like take the last 2 hours of the day. I'm like, I'm a consultant. I don't, and they pretty much demanded that I go. And then they gave me a turkey. They gave everybody a turkey. Okay. Thank you. This is better than a pizza party.
I miss those days. I worked at a company where every Thanksgiving was Thanksgiving, and it was glorious. Semi-truck trailers full of turkeys being handed out. That was fun.
It wasn't a turkey. It was one of those spiral cut honey roasted hams.
Yes. Yeah. That was the gift for decades.
I remember when Spiral Cut came out, the innovation, like everyone, wait, what? Spiral? You just have to make one cut across, right?
What sorcery is this?
Yeah, that was huge. That was
special cutlery. So, Brian, do you guys have like a pre-holiday season, like planning session of how you're going to get through the rest of the year?
You're talking about the professional life as opposed to the personal at this point?
Yes.
I think the answer was yes to both, honestly. But honestly, with the professional, we typically, the clients, the companies that I have worked with, we don't really end up changing too much in our overall strategy. We don't go into a special planning session of any sort. It's more just providing that caveat of anything you want to get done during December is going to take 5 times longer than it normally would. Just prepare yourself for it. And then, what we chatted about earlier is if I'm on a team that's making true sprint commitments and doing things like that, we dramatically reduce it. So it's not necessarily a formal agreement. It's just something that I've just learned over my experience and time. This is the way to do it, and it doesn't need to be a big deal. You handle it this way, and if anyone wants to challenge it, they're free to come and challenge or talk to me about it. But I don't think anyone ever has. I think everyone understands that this is just kind of the way it goes.
Yeah,
it is a special time of year for sure, where people do understand that deadlines are not necessarily deadlines, and more flexibility is given.
And I think, I referred to how there's all these other times during the year, summer vacation, spring vacation, etc., where these same issues crop up, but it doesn't come with the same impact this part does. And I think we have these holidays that just come one right after another. There's so much expected of people, outside of their professional lives, the gift purchasing and whatnot, the party planning, the food purchasing, etc., that you don't get with spring vacations and summers and whatnot, that it's just, I think everyone just gets it, and they might not like it, but they get it at the same time. And so I've never really run into anyone who put up a fight. I've had teams still attempt to enforce deadlines on us in the middle of this, and we've met them. We don't get a nice solution the way that I'd really like to. We deliver the absolute minimum that we needed to make the feature or whatever it is work. But if they'd given us more time outside of this season, we could have gotten them something better. But yeah, for the most part, everyone's pretty understanding.
Well, I think, it's also important to note that while, this season is wonderful for a lot of people, there's people that this is the hardest time of the year for them.
It's a great call out. Yes, it can be a very lonely time. And, especially for people living up in the northern areas of the globe like we do, it gets cold. This week we had some wind chills that just, they can be deadly. And this can be a very nasty part of the year. That's a great call. Bit of a downer, but
yeah, I just brought everything to a
you really did.
Halt. But I think it's important to know it's you're going to have people that are stressed out, and you got to understand that you're having all this fun and they're not, and it's like, well, that shouldn't stop you from having fun and enjoying the season, but you should keep an eye out on those people. Maybe invite that single guy that moved into town from a different part of the country or the world to Thanksgiving dinner. This is a tough state to break into, like social groups and things like that. As nice as we are, a lot of our social groups are not hiring.
Yeah.
No, and I do think that's a good call out, because if you're not experiencing that, it's hard to think about. Mm-hmm. Right? If this is your most favorite time of year and you've been waiting for 11 months to put up snowflakes and socks and other fun things to decorate with, and it's wonderful, right? Unless you're not, and then it's a little bit more challenging. So, and I'm not slamming your sock or your little hats or your trees or your, I don't even see what else is in there. It's a cornucopia of Christmas delight behind you there, Chad.
It is. Yeah.
It's a veritable plethora.
There's a very winter-friendly blanket behind you as well. I like that.
Yeah.
Blankets at this time of year are almost, in the offices, they were almost a requirement. In some of the offices, you're just
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
need a blanket.
And I've got Spam, Beanie Weenie.
Yep. All the
I did a
can't
bad
see it.
job.
But I have mistletoe hanging from the ceiling.
Oh, look
Well,
at
I
you.
will not be
I know.
visiting you at home. So.
Right.
Otis sees it and he's like, that's a green light to go to town. So I get a lot of kisses from my dog, Otis. Otis is my
Yes.
dog. Also, if it's not there, he looks at me and he just takes that as a green light and he just goes to town. My dog loves me, is what I'm saying.
Any parting thoughts as we dive back into the holiday season?
Yeah, for the folks that don't love taking time off in December, like, enjoy this. This is the best. What for me, it's the best time of year. Like everything about December, from December through like January, I'm in one of my best moods of the year. The free time that you get without meetings, without everybody around is exquisite. Recognize what you're saying about the people that get the seasonal, issues. That isn't me. Maybe that's a nice little privilege I have of not suffering from any of that, but holy crap, this is maximum Chad from now until probably the end of February.
I will say that I agree with Chad that if you are going to be in the office, take advantage.
Yeah.
Because Christmas comes but once a year and people are gone and the expectations are completely different for whatever reason. And yeah, I remember going into the office during the holiday times and just, it's so quiet. It's so nice.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well,
It's
that's
okay
for me. That's I really planning on not taking much vacation anymore at the end of the year, just because the tech support, all that extra stuff that I do goes way down, and I get that pure work time. And also, the people pleaser in me has to dial it back and shut Slack off for half the day, and hide so I can get some stuff done. Awesome. Well, thanks,
Right?
gentlemen.
Do you have any parting thoughts?
Mine was just, this is the official time of the year when it's okay to tell your Scrum Master to get off your back. So
ooh,
Hey.
nice.
take advantage.
I want that in writing, sir. Ryan said.
We'll get that on t-shirts. Awesome. Well,
already
y'all have
got
a good
one.
day. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, I think we can say goodbye, everybody.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.